what really hurts when you have bad books is like you can look at your bank account and see $1 million and none of that is yours.
Welcome to Builders, Budgets, and Beers. I'm Reece Barnes, and I started this podcast to have real conversations about money in the building industry, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. I believe builders deserve to feel confident about their finances, and that starts by hearing from others who've been through it too. This industry can be slow to change, but the right stories and the right tools can make profitability feel possible. Let's get into it. Alrighty, mics are hot, Tyler. We're rolling. Thanks for jumping on the pod, dude.
Hell yeah, man! I appreciate it. I always love talking accounting.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna dive into it. And dude, it's been a long time coming. I'm actually surprised this is the first time we recorded an episode.
I was actually a little offended that it took this long. I mean, I figured I'd be like one of your number one guys.
Hey, dude, you were nervous. You wanted to let the other guests take the appearance, right? You didn't want to be the first one on the block. But no, dude, I'm super stoked for this episode. So for the audience, everyone out there, today we have Tyler Krueger. He is over at Canopy Builders. I'm not going to steal your thunder here, Tyler. I want you to introduce yourself and give the fine contractors of America your background. So go ahead, I'll let you rip.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of how I started in construction was my mom's actually a controller for a home builder here in Minnesota area, Jonathan Homes. I started sweeping garage floors, every floor of the house. I got married to a shop vac pretty early on. I think that was like the fittest I'd ever been, was sweeping floors. Like the biceps and everything were doing good. And then I loved construction ever since high school. I've really been like, I'm looking at the market. I'm on realtor.com. I'm, doing all that stuff. So, and then I got approached by the CFO of Hanson Builders to kind of work in their financing department. Jonathan Homes, Hanson Builders, our sister parent companies.
Okay, cool.
And so I worked in the finance accounting department kind of as an intern doing job costing, different kinds of things like that for probably 5 or 6 years while I was at St. Thomas in high school. And then I started working at Month End, the accounting firm.
Our good friends over at Month End. I love it.
Good friends over at Month End.
That's how we met each other. That's how we met each other years ago.
Yeah, legit. Yeah. 21, I think we started. We first met. So I was the onboarding manager there. Every new client that we had, I worked with for the first 60 days that they were with us. So sometimes they were just getting into Builder Trend and QuickBooks Online. They're coming from who knows what, every software I think we worked with.
Right.
And it was I've seen everything, I feel like.
I'm sure.
That you can possibly see. So,
dude, how many clients would you say you worked with over your tenure? How many contractors did you work with over your tenure?
I think the last estimate that we had was over 150 clients that I onboarded into the Month End program. Yep.
So you've seen your fair number of books from construction companies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anything from, a HVAC contractor that we did the books for to, full custom $40 million builds down in Naples, Florida. So I've kind of seen everything.
Yep. Okay, but where are you now? You're with Canopy, right?
Down in I'm in Minnesota, but I work for Canopy Builders. I'm the controller. We do anywhere from 60 to 70 homes a year. Awesome. We have a range from production to full custom houses. And it's been amazing. I love working remote, but I also I go down there about every month for about a week. And, obviously in July, it's not as fun, or August, it's not as fun as, December and January, but
totally,
it's
not a bad setup. You're essentially a snowbird.
Yeah.
You're an early snowbird.
Yep. It's awesome. And I love everybody that I work with. Ben and Tony are just they're awesome, in every single way. And so it's a lot of fun. It's
I love
it's
it.
it's like my dream job right now. So
Dude, it sounds like you're getting ready to ask for a raise here. The way that you're hyping up the boys. No, I'm giving you shit. Okay, so obviously, like, massively qualified. I think this is going to be a great episode for the audience. You guys are doing high volume residential. You've got hundreds of contractors that you've worked with. And it's going to be nearly impossible for this not to be a great episode. So we'll follow suit, and I'm going to ask you a question. And
yep.
your answer will essentially like determine how we're going to run this episode. So the
Yeah.
question is, from your point of view, in your opinion, what is the one conversation that needs to be had more in the construction accounting world that isn't being had enough?
That's really interesting. I feel like my perception of that has changed a lot over the last 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously with dealing with 150 clients,
Yeah.
and then also now working full time for one builder
Yep.
and having a whole. I mean, we have probably 100+ active vendors that we're working with day to
Yeah.
day.
Naturally. Yeah.
It's always been the importance of accounting. It's
Okay.
We need to talk about it more. It's just nobody is nobody to me really seems, now obviously I've had the time to show Ben and Tony the importance of accounting,
Of
so they
course.
have a great appreciation for it. But I could never, it's really hard to get owners to appreciate how valuable good books are,
Mhm.
good processes are in accounting, and having a really good controller, accounts payable person. Like, if you have your CPA doing your books every 3 months, you're not getting good information from your accounting system.
Totally. And so, okay, so like essentially your perspective is like there needs to be more conversation around just construction accounting in construction companies. There needs to be more buy-in, more emphasis or importance placed on it.
Yep.
Like it seems obvious, dude. Like, okay, obviously we're talking to business owners, right?
Yep.
Contractors, their business is building a home, a product. Um, and I think it's fair for like everyone to understand, like, especially in this world, is like typically the business gets started because the owner, the founder has a passion for the trade, right? Building the
Yeah.
home. But
Yep.
it seems equally as obvious for anyone in business that accounting and financials are massively important. Like,
Yep.
you can love building a house, but the risk that comes with owning the business that is building the house is
Yep.
like almost entirely reliant on accounting and finance.
Yeah.
So
Cash in, cash
why
out, man. Yep.
that's what I'm saying. So like why where do you think the lag is? I have my speculation, but I want to hear from you. Like, why do you think business owners or contractors, construction companies are not emphasizing or prioritizing accounting and the finance talk in their business as much as they should?
I I think that it's also a lot of owners come from, maybe they were a project manager one day, or,
Exactly.
in the past, or, different things like that. They have a true appreciation of what their project managers go through, or, maybe their estimator, or, different things like that. Like, they've done it before. They understand it, and they're the
Yep.
ones touching the houses, So, like, from, getting your framing package to, putting in your plumbing fixtures, like, they understand every single step that got them to there. And so,
Yep.
like, it's really hard for them to sit down and talk accounting. Like, the one thing that I really try to do is make finances, having that financial meeting really interesting, and it's really hard for to make accounting fun,
Totally.
And so, like, one thing that I started doing was I did a newsletter. Like, I would do a
Okay.
newsletter, quick snippet, to our owners of Canopy, and they loved it. Like, I put little construction jokes on the side. There's just
I
like
love that, dude.
there's really interesting ways to, kind of keep it fun, keep it lighthearted. Like, accounting doesn't always have to be so dry.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is really hard to do. Like, it's a craft. I mean, it's like you're taking something that nobody wants to talk about, And I've always wondered, like in some of the contractors that we maybe work for, or different things like that, like do they not want to see the numbers? Like
So
it's just kind of it. I've just always wondered that.
okay, well, so I want to hear more tactical about the newsletter, okay? Because I think that would be like great. Because I
Yeah.
totally agree. Like yes, you need to keep clean books, right?
Yeah.
Yes, you need to make sure the company is running healthily, right? And people are making money, and like that's like table stakes, right, from the controller accounting
Yeah.
standpoint. But like, what makes an elite Tyler Krueger esque controller of making accounting interesting? That's a challenge. So I want to hear more about the newsletter. I think that could be an interesting angle or something that people could apply. But to your point of like, why don't they want to have these conversations, right?
Hmm.
And there's obviously the intimidation side. We talked about project management, right? They understand the operations side of the world. Typically, that's where the owner is going to come from, is the operational side of the business. But do you think that the resistance, or rather the, just to be blunt, like the head in the sand perspective of these owners, is because they've never had good books, or
Uh-huh.
because like it's usually like a gut punch, or they go into a meeting and they're super excited and they're like, yeah, we got $1 million in the bank, we should be good, and then it's like a right hook out of nowhere and they're like, we're actually down $500,000, I'm losing money. Like it's
Yeah.
this huge swing of emotions because it's never been accurate. Do you think that has something to do with the resistance or the lack of appetite for accounting in these
Yeah.
businesses?
Yeah. It's really hard, I think, for contractors to get into the books because I feel like they ultimately know a little bit. Like there's been some guts in 150 clients that they feel like they know what their books are, and it's
Sure.
completely off base.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of contractors that are like, I know where I'm at, but it's also really hard to get contractors to realize like how quickly maybe a 10% deposit on a contract goes. Like
Sure.
you got 50% deposits for the countertops, you got 50% deposits for the cabinets, you got all these different things that need 50% deposits. Like you can't you can't, like that 250 in doesn't mean anything. Like
Yeah.
it's the completion of the home that really has you recognizing, um, you know, when you can start actually recognizing that 250. So
Totally.
it's pretty crazy.
Wait. Okay, so break that down a little bit, because I think I'm following here, and I guess like a question that I'm gonna let you explain that a little bit more. 250. What are you talking about? Like quarter million? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, like if you get a 10% deposit on $2.5 million,
Yeah, it's a
you've got
quarter.
250 grand deposit.
Yep.
And so it's just, that money it comes in and you have a signed contract, but the next month, like all that 250 is gone and you haven't even started the construction,
Totally.
because you have all your design stuff going out. You
You've
picked
got
out your
design
cabinets, you
permits.
picked out your countertops,
Yeah.
tile, all this. Like some of those packages, that 250 is out the door the next day.
And then okay, so like you're talking like the 10%, right? Deposit, right? And it's like you got to ask yourself as a business owner, like, where is this percentage coming from, right?
Yeah.
Industry standard, right?
Yeah.
What the competitive market is asking,
Yeah.
right? But I think, really, correct me if I'm wrong, really it needs to be more of a less of a 10% deposit, more
Hmm.
of a, what is it going to cost for us
Yeah.
to get this thing going? And it's
Yeah.
really hard to make that decision of how much is this going to cost for us to get going
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
don't have tight books, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Exactly.
just constantly in this hamster wheel of 10%, 10%, 10%. And
Yep.
then what happens after that? It's like, dude, you can't even
Yep.
pay for the cabinet pack. That's going to add a delay. We all know
Yep.
when we have delays, we're going to add money to the project, right?
Yep.
And so what's your take? Do you agree, disagree? What's
Oh,
the
I
crux
I
there?
totally agree, and I think what really hurts, what really hurts when you have bad books is like you can look at your bank account and see $1 million, and none of that is yours.
Right.
Like if you don't have a true understanding of what deposits, what liabilities are in there, what's all the money that we have to owe. Maybe it's rent, different things like that. Like there's a lot of different line items that I feel like a lot of people miss out on a lot of the valuables that accounting can bring because it's coaching, the owners or contractors on like this is the money that's in there, and this is what makes up everything that's in there.
Right.
And you know what? That $1,000,000 goes down to 40 grand pretty quickly, you
Yeah.
know?
Totally. Totally. Well, and so that to me seems like table stakes, right?
Yeah.
Of like that. I mean, that seems like it's totally obvious. I got $1,000,000 in cash. I can get excited about it, sure, but it's less exciting when you're actually tracking and saying, I'm liable for all these costs that we've already committed to, and
Yeah.
like seeing those numbers. What's the challenge? Like, why isn't every contractor doing that? Why isn't every controller or accountant at a construction company doing that? I mean, it just seems so logical and so easy. What's the challenge?
I think honestly, I think it's having the right people in the seat.
Okay.
It's really hard to find good controllers. It's really hard to find good accountants that really understand the full process of construction. I feel
Okay.
like I've had a really good introduction to it because I started sweeping the floors. Like when I saw an invoice for trusses, like I know exactly what that was. When I see, floor treads and different things, all this stuff that goes into the whole process, like it like I had a good start. And then I
Yeah.
went and did the job costing for 5 years. Like I processed like I think 2,000 bills a month,
That's
um,
crazy.
for how many homes that we had.
Yeah.
And it was I just saw everything and I saw all the errors and different things like that. So and then I wanted to get into accounting. So
Yeah.
it's just like I really had like a really slow, gradual growth into construction where I could see like an awesome full picture moment of it. So
Totally.
it was it was awesome. So yeah,
So you're a
I really
unicorn.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't look at it that way,
Take the
like
compliment. Take the compliment.
yeah,
Take it.
yeah. It's just like I feel like that growth is, you can't hire for a controller that has a really good understanding of construction. Like I feel like that is one thing that really people struggle with, finding bookkeepers or finding fractional CFO people. They need like a CFO esque thing, position, but they just can't find it. And then the struggle with bookkeepers and fractional CFO is they just don't. I sit in Canopy all day, every day, and I feel like I know where every penny is. I know where, like, what's going on. I have a very good pulse of the company.
Mhm.
And if you're sitting there working on 4 or 5 clients a day, you just don't have that pulse. And it's really hard. That's where I feel like I bring in all of my value is knowing every single thing on, on our financials and really like it's kind of hard to explain like cash flow, to someone. Like it's like our ins can be kind of difficult to project sometimes, but
Yeah.
our outs, we have vendors every single Friday coming and picking up checks or getting ACH through Adaptive,
Oh,
and they are like on it, man. Like
yeah.
they send in an invoice, like they know exactly what they sent us. They know exactly like how much money the check should be for.
Yeah.
So it's just really hard sometimes. You know, just there's a lot of feel to it, and
Yeah.
it's just I get that feel from being in the books 100% of the time.
Totally.
So
Totally. Okay. And I think that's a really good way to explain like how to do this well. And I mean, you're working at like a large construction company for a residential standpoint,
yeah,
right? Like
yep,
70, 80 units. Is that what you said?
yeah, yep,
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot for like, obviously like a private company, right?
yep,
Um, but to your point earlier of like finding the right person, like really what I took away from that is, and I totally agree with this, by the way, is like finding the right person for a construction accounting role is like getting someone that understands construction first and foremost. This isn't just
mhm,
like I hired a CPA, right?
yep,
It's like it's understanding the nuance of construction accounting and job costing is important, right?
yep,
And then your background, like you started sweeping the floors, you're on projects, you're seeing framing happen, right? You're seeing tile
yep,
installs, you're seeing all this stuff, and you're like associating it to it. But you also made the comment that you can't just like expect someone to know that. Is it crazy to think that like you could take somebody who's worked in the business or even hired an outside controller that might not have the floor sweeping experience, but as a part of their onboarding or expectation in the role is to spend 8 hours a month or a quarter or whatever
Mhm.
on the project, like
Yep.
actually seeing, like, do you think that's the move? What's your take?
It is totally the move. I think controllers and accounting, they need to be on job sites, like understanding the different stages and what goes into getting it to that stage. And I think that's a phenomenal idea because how I picture all of it is being able to see the full picture of the project development. I just that's the hard stuff that you can't teach. Like
Totally.
if you
Totally.
had a project manager that, had a knack or want to be in accounting, like they'd have a great jump start on like what needs to happen to, get into it because they have an understanding of the construction side of it.
Totally. Totally. Okay. And that's like, I think the first piece is like, you need to understand the accounting side for sure, but you're almost like making the case that like the operational understanding is just as important for the accounting team, which actually kind of brings your initial comment like full circle is like, how could you possibly make accounting or construction accounting for that matter interesting to people that to their core are operational people or
Yep.
in the field people if you can't identify or associate with what their day looks like I just
Yep.
feel like you would immediately start in your business an interest in accounting if Tyler was bags on sweeping or helping us in the field and like just that like I don't know, like a day in the life. Like you're in the trenches with the
Yep.
squad and
Yep.
like you have that appreciation. You're sweating your ass off.
Yep.
You're picking up nails on the job site, doing the grunt work, right? Like doing the things that no
Oh,
one wants to do, but you're gathering and like you make the commitment and the effort to learn your team. That to me just seems like you immediately have respect. And now people are like,
yeah.
now when they're in your world, now when they're in the boardroom and we're going over whip or whatever it
Oh, yeah.
might be, now they're
Yep.
like, okay, like, dude, Tyler's been dogging it in the field with us or
Yep.
whoever. Like
Yep.
I'm gonna pay attention in this meeting. I'm not gonna be on my phone. I'm not gonna be
Yep.
passive. I'm gonna be prepared. Like I've
Yep.
seen it from him. I'm gonna do it my right. Is that
Yep.
fair?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And like being able to relate to people on like the operations side is like it's invaluable. Like I have conversations with our project managers, or I'm a part of the construction meeting every week. Like we
Yeah.
have weekly construction meetings where all of our project managers, director of operations comes in, and I'm a part of it as well. And, just being able to, one, have that connection with everybody, and nobody, I feel like I'm one of the guys, in that meeting.
Yeah.
And they all like, we shoot the shit. Like
Yeah.
it's
Of
it's
course.
nothing that like it, I'm one of them. And it's because I'm able to say like, yeah, I've been in the basement, not in Florida. None of them have the concept of what a basement is because
Slab
there's
on
no
grade,
basements
baby.
in Florida. But, I'm like, I've been in the basement when there's drywallers upstairs throwing a party, like
Yeah.
those guys, like they bring out the boombox stereo and that place is rumbling,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I've cleaned up after them too,
Yeah.
they're, so it's like I've been there, and I feel like that helps a lot. So it's getting out on the job site, understanding the process, like getting a full picture of it. You don't need to understand it. Like I can't explain to you, why we like here's a funny thing. Like we were in our ADU, it's an apartment above the garage.
Yep.
We do a lot of them. That's where we have our meeting.
Okay.
And I was like, what annoys me? Like I was, budging our QC person. I'm like, why is that outlet flipped upside down? Like it annoys the crap out of me that outlet is flipped upside down. And everybody was laughing.
Yeah.
And it's because that's the outlet that shows what the switch, turns off and on. And I'm like, oh, there we go. Like
Now,
and it's just, I'm sure project managers have gotten that question from clients a billion times.
Right.
But it's just, I'm a client too every once in a while. I
Of
make those,
course.
stupid questions that they've, been asked 100 times, but
Totally. But hey, on that, like the stupid question thread is like just as much as that is obvious to the project managers, right? Or the guys in
yeah,
the field. And they're like, dude, no shit.
yeah,
Like, this is what
yeah,
it is.
yep,
They have twice as many of those questions for the accounting team, right?
absolutely.
And if
Yep,
you can be the one to ask the stupid question in
yep,
their world, make them the expert,
yep,
they're going to be much more open to making you the expert, right?
yep,
And you just drop that guard. It's like really just like making it a conversation in the company.
yep, yep. So the one other thing that I would say, that really helped me, kind of get them understanding like what I'm looking for. Like a lot of our projects are based on milestone billing. So
Yeah.
you hit like drywall and you get 20% of the contract. You hit window, like there's just a bunch of different things. We got like 8 milestones, letting them know like, hey, I don't need you to tell me, when you do the plumbing rough. I don't need you to tell me when you do this. Here's the 8 things that I need to know from you.
Yeah.
You take that list from, 120 schedule items to 8, and like instantly you're their best friend. They're like, oh, thank
Totally.
God. I didn't want to tell you about 120 things. Like 8 sounds pretty manageable. So
Totally.
working with project managers and understanding, helping them, just being very clear about like what you're looking for and what your expectation is, like goes a long way. And
Totally.
and also being friendly. Like a lot of accounting
Shocker.
people scare the project managers, because it's like, oh, I forgot that receipt. I forgot, whatever.
Totally.
But like being like, oh, it's no big deal. Like just what's the information on that transaction?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just goes a long way. So
Totally. Totally. I love it. Okay. And I have my note here. I still want to know. I mean, this has been great so far. I mean, a lot of
yeah,
tactical stuff. Um,
absolutely.
the newsletter. Dude,
Yeah.
so what was the idea behind it? When did you start doing it? What was the traction it got? And then I want to know like some of the contents behind it. Like
Yeah.
what was in it?
So basically I would do them quarterly. Like it takes a lot of work, and it's kind of breaking up your accounting mind and being a lot more creative.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you really want to post on Instagram, a really good caption and wise whatever? Like, do you want to do that like immediately after you just got done working 8 hours, or do you want to do that in the morning when like you're fresh and like so it's really hard. It was really hard to like truly find the perfect time to work on it. So
Yeah.
I try to do it quarterly. We're kind of naturally building a lot of the reports that maybe were in that newsletter.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about one of the things that we would talk about in that newsletter is like our net income for the last quarter, like,
Love it.
and how did that look from the previous quarter and the quarter, it's a lot of looking back at previous quarters. So like maybe Q1 of 2025, here's how we shaped up.
Yeah.
And then also I'd put in like our number of sales in that quarter,
Yeah.
our number of closings. Like I would pop up the closings, like what we made on those closings. There's just, it's like a really like quick hitter information. Like we can have an hour long meeting going over the financials, which we do every month.
Yeah.
But it's really like trying to do like a quick hitter summary.
Totally.
So it'd be like I try to keep it about like 5 pages long. It's not like full text. There's screenshots of our worksheets that we have.
Totally.
And then the jokes too. So it's like I just saw, I just clicked on the link, like, what 200 jokes, construction jokes. And I would just like go down the line and I'm like, oh yeah, they'll like that one, like
Yeah.
it just kept it fun. And the summary aspect, like I feel like owners and contractors, they have a very limited amount of time, and it's like, how can I maximize this amount of time and have it be the most impactful and useful for them to make the business decisions that they need to be making.
Totally. Well, and I think like just even like the theme I'm picking up here is thoughtful, intentional,
Hmm.
like
Yep.
thinking about your team, like
Yep.
really caring. And like, I
Yep.
know that like my world is intimidating to these people. I can control how I deliver
Yep.
myself with teams, right?
Yep.
I can control how I think about what they want to see and how I can present it to them in a way that's
Yep.
going to get them excited. What was the outcome of
Yep.
that? Like, did you see, was it like one quarter, they're like, oh, Tyler, this was great. And the second was like, oh, dude, I love that you're doing it. And the third quarter, they're like, dude, this is actually super helpful. What was the progression? What was the outcome? What did you see that do to the business?
Yeah. So I feel like it was more fun to read the newsletter. Obviously, I we do our monthly meetings.
Yep.
Like by the fifth of the month, I have our books closed, everything's coded, everything's reconciled. And we, about like 4 or 5 days later, like the second Monday of every month, we have our financial meeting, which is an hour long. I go through the financials. But like it's kind of like a Spotify review, like end of the year review where it's like, hey, this is what happened. This is what you
Totally.
listened to. Like,
Yeah.
that I really tried to keep it like that. So it wasn't necessarily anything new that they heard about. Like it wasn't like riveting information. It was more of a summary. Hey, this is a snapshot of what happened.
Yeah.
So it and like the one thing that I've always tried to do for the owner's sake is like I want them to know if I'm not able to be there and have the conversation with, let's say, a lender or an investor, I want them to be able to articulate the financials just as clearly as I would if I was going to be there. Obviously, it would be better if I was
Of
there,
course.
but
Yeah.
they'd be able to just like say truthful statements to important people that are relying on that information.
They
Like
could hang.
if they, if you're closing 70 homes a year and the owner says to the lender that it's 30 or 150, like
Yeah.
that's not useful information because it's like not the facts. So
Totally.
I always tried to like, my goal is to make the owners understand the financials and articulate the financials as if I was able to be there and do it.
Totally. And then even bring this back to just like, how do we make just construction accounting in general more of a conversation in business? Make them more confident, have it be a more palatable conversation. It's like they've got to feel so empowered and
Yeah.
like confident after
Yeah.
they've sat through a meeting once a month. They're getting the newsletter. This is a conversation they can digest, and then they get the opportunity to have that conversation with the lender, and they're
Yeah.
spitting facts. It might not be the depth, right? They might get into a point where like, if you want to know that, you have to go to our controller,
Yeah.
Tyler.
Yeah. Yep.
But
Exactly.
still, dude, now they're not like a bump on a log, just reaching for anything that might be close, and they sound like morons. And then the lender's like, does this guy even know what's going on? Like
Yep.
they can now be a part of the conversation. Dude, I think
Yep.
this is great.
Yep. It's been a journey. Like I would say like my time at month end, it was a lot more difficult for me to like make it fun and
Yeah.
different things. Like it was definitely a learning process. It's like you get into a monthly meeting with a contractor and it's like, oh, that was a little dry. Okay,
Yeah.
like what do I do like the next time to make it more fun?
Yeah.
I'd always start my meetings with like, hey, what's up? Like, what happened since the last time we talked? And like really trying to make it personal, like personal connections
Yeah.
with those contractors really helped because it's like, most of my relationships with those contractors were like, hey, I like maybe we'd have a half-hour meeting and the first 20 minutes was just us shooting the shit. So it's
Yeah.
like, and that's what brought value. Like they never wanted to fire, anybody because they're like, then then I don't get to talk to Tyler,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's how I made it fun. And it's like, okay, now how do I talk more about accounting and make it fun? And I try different things to make it more fun. And I think that's what's hard is you gotta keep trying different things. It and every contractor, every owner was so different, you know. One thing that worked on one would like definitely not work on another. So,
Totally.
I just kind of got to be able to, you know, understand what worked and, maybe set like boundaries for myself of like, okay, like that totally flopped. Like don't ever do that one again. So it's just trial and error, man. The personal connections I think is what is easiest because you got to be able to find like what makes certain people tick. And if it's gross profit margin, if it's net income, if it's like, understanding what you're spending on, to this vendor, like maybe they want to understand like what's our top 10 spends of vendors? Like who are we sending the most money to?
Yeah.
They might not even know that,
Yeah.
and the transparency of financials and the timeliness of financials are super important for that.
Totally.
Because I've seen anywhere from they haven't done their books in 5 years, the last 5 years,
Dude.
to like maybe they have 1,000 transactions at the end of the year of uncategorized expenses because they didn't get receipts. And how are you able to make business decisions based on that? Like
You
it just
can't.
and they're if you're making decisions, they're probably wrong.
Yeah.
So it's getting them to understand, like, okay, you haven't done your books in 5 years. Okay, like maybe you get your CPA to do them quarterly.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, we got that down. We need better information. Okay, I need a bookkeeper.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a contractor, maybe it's an in-house. That's a need. And then all of a sudden you get to the progression of, okay, I need a controller. Like I need someone that knows accounting, that knows everything that I need to be told and how to clearly and efficiently get that information. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's stages. Like every contractor goes through stages and it just depends on what stage you're at. And hopefully my hope is that every contractor realizes that they need a controller and they need a good accountant. And because it's there's different point of views of like what's the most important, what's the most important person in this company, who's the
Of
MVP.
course. Of course.
And it's like some people say it's design, some people say it's project manager, some people say it's the salespeople. Sometimes it's never the accountants.
Right.
It's never the accountants.
Yeah.
And I just like I'm sick of being on the back seat. Like if
That's right, baby.
contractors need to know how valuable accountants are. So that's my that's my point. Like it's just people need to understand that accounting is important and it's
Totally.
way more vital to the life of the company than they give it credit.
For sure. I think we're going to get a lot of agreement in the audience. But I also think that like again, I think the audience would generally agree that like accounting isn't enough of a conversation in the construction company, right?
Yep.
And they could probably empathize with you, right? Feeling like they're in the
Yep.
back seat. But I
Yep.
also think that for people that feel that way are equally as responsible for changing that, right?
Yeah.
If you're feeling that way, like God, they're just not emphasizing the accounting, they're not emphasizing the financials. Like I can see all these big problems, but like we're not able to get in front of them. It's like start with like being a part of the team. Like maybe like do something as seemingly wild as, hey, like I got the books, we're all taken care of. I'm going to see you on the job site at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. And I'm bringing coffee, and I want to see what your guys' world is like. And just like that immediate piece is going to be like, okay, now you might get a little clout in the business, right? Now we might start thinking, oh, that's just the person that takes care of our accounting. Like whatever, he's just a pain in the ass. It's like, well, no, it's like I'm a part of the team. I want to see your world because selfishly, I want you to start seeing more of my world, right? And taking that shift, taking that ownership of making the conversation relevant enough to get out of the back seat and in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. And having relationships with your vendors too. Like it's
Yeah.
so important. It's so easy to like hide behind a keyboard and be like,
Of course.
what? Why didn't you, you get so frustrated and it's like, no, like they have mouths to feed too, like they
Totally.
need that cash and like meeting them really changes your perspective on that. We do like a vendor lunch, I think quarterly,
Yeah.
where we bring out barbecue under tents and tables and
Love
beer
it.
and Diet Cokes and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just really nice to meet everybody. It's like, oh, I've never ran into you, but now I'm able to put that face to all the emails and it's valuable. It's just like, getting out, seeing your project managers at do it using their craft. And then seeing your vendors too. When you're out on that job site, it's like, oh, like that's who I talk to all the time.
Totally.
So
Totally. No, Tyler, I love it. I appreciate you jumping on. I think this is going to be a killer episode for everybody. Where can I've been getting guests like, hey, like I want to talk to this person. Hey, I want to do this. Are you cool if like you share your information or like where they can find you? Like maybe LinkedIn. You don't have to give them your cell phone or your social security or anything like that. Like where can they find you?
And I'm okay with that. That's totally fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. So what Tyler? It's Tyler Krueger. Spell your last name for the folks.
Krueger
With
Canopy Builders LLC.
Bingo. Yeah. If you guys look up Tyler Krueger on LinkedIn, he's got just a smiling face in his profile picture. Send him a connect, DM him. Dude, I appreciate you. I think this is great. I think you've got a wealth of knowledge. And I think you're a great advocate for the construction accounting profession. There's certainly room for it to improve. That's not to ignore the challenges that come with it. But these are tactical, low hanging fruit opportunities for people to apply. And frankly, it's just like a fresh perspective. It's like, just be a human, be a human, and respect and take an interest in the other people, and you might get it back.
Yep.
So
Builder 20 group has also been amazing.
Beautiful. Okay.
It's
that's NHB's, right? NHB's program.
Yeah. Yep. That's like another like tidbit that I would say, like, if you're really trying to see how other people are doing it, I would go in there and, they're like in the fall meeting, they do like on-site visits with like one of the contractors that's in the group.
Sure.
So they walk through houses and different things like that. I don't go to that one because it doesn't necessarily apply to me.
Sure.
The financial meeting happens in March, and that's where you compare financials, you do this and that, and it is so valuable because you get to look at your neighbor and see what they're doing, and it's just like a open book, see everything, and you just talk. You just talk about finances. How'd you hire a controller? How did you find that good talent of a project manager? I'm struggling, know?
Right.
It's so valuable. That's been a really, really insightful thing for me as well.
I love it. More tips and tricks from Tyler Krueger. I appreciate you, dude. Great episode. Good luck in Canada. I expect pictures, dude.
I'm gonna catch the big fish, and I'll send you pictures immediately after I do so.
What do we think the odds of you slamming a 30-inch or bigger walleye is?
Ooh, up there, the walleye. It's been done. I'll say it's been done, but the biggest I've caught up there is I think 28 inches. It's pretty hard to get into the 30 range up there.
Okay, well then let's just go ahead. You're gonna break the record. You got to come out with a 28.5 or 29.
Yeah, I can do that. I
love it.
Yeah, we're going for the northerns and then the trout as well. My PB on trout is 36. On the northerns, I had a 42.5. So that's what I'm going for. I really want to beat those.
I love it. I'm jealous.
Trick made when that happens, man.
Dude, life made. Those are life memories right there.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. Okay,
you want to see me truly enjoy an ice cold beer is immediately after I catch a big northern. It's already making me excited.
Get the brandy old fashions rolling, baby.
Yeah. That's once you get back to the cabin.
Yeah, exactly. Cool, dude. Well, we'll catch up soon. I appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Reese.
See you, dude.